And so here we are on the first Sunday of the year, a Sunday that we always dedicate to the basic fundamental principles of science of mind for the whole of the month. And so all over the land now, all over the world, in many of our centers, there is a focus, and the focus is on the gift that science of mind is and what it is. And it's also focused on what flows out of that, the global vision for the organization, which of course is to create a compassionate world that works for all. And how we do that is through practicing and applying the principles of science of mind. And this is the Sunday we always look at the thing itself. That does not have a name, because to name it would be to limit it, and yet we give it hundreds and hundreds and thousands of names. The Hindu tradition gives it hundreds of names. The Muslim tradition has whittled it down to 99 names. The Judeo-Christian tradition calls it the great I am, as was given to Moses when he was told to go tell the people, the great I am has sent you. And so whatever that is, it's going to be personalized to you, and it's going to be individualized through me, and we decide ourselves what it is. But remember, that which is ineffable cannot be described. It's a mystery, and you and I get to unravel that mystery every single moment of our lives, because we are an emanation of its mystery. Each one of us is a mystery unto ourselves, God knows, and indeed, if we are unto ourselves, unto everybody else too. So don't let anybody tell you they know you inside out. They don't. You don't even know yourself inside out. But we're getting there. That's why we're here together, gathered. So this thing that we call life, this thing that we call the good, this thing that we call the creative force in the universe, this thing we call the creator, this thing we call first cause, is what science of mind is all about. And science of mind was never intended by Dr. Ernest Holmes to be a new religion, never. That was the last thing on his mind that he wanted to create. He felt that the world had enough religions as it was. So what was it? It was his genius came to us through the fact that he was able to study all the philosophies and study all the sciences and study all the religions, and found the golden mean, the golden thread, the commonality that ran throughout all of that. Then he coalesced all of that, brought it under one umbrella, and called it religious science or spiritual science or the science of mind. And what is the science of mind? The science of mind is the study of the mind, and it's the practice of the heart that can lead to self-realization or to the awakening of consciousness. That's what it is. Now, I haven't discovered anything better than it yet, and if I do, I'll be gone to wherever that is. And so that for me, it makes the greatest sense at the moment, and has for many years. And so there isn't anything more than that that could be offered by any teaching or any philosophy as I see it. And so when it comes to science of mind, we are told and taught and study that it is basically the deeper study of the law of consciousness. Ernest Holmes said it is the study of the law of consciousness. It's the study of how life works and the nature of the law. And so if you and I become expert in recognizing that, identifying with that, and then applying that awareness, then our lives are unstoppable, and we can achieve any kind of good we so desire. And so that's why we gather together, to deepen our awareness of who we are and the nature of ourselves, and the nature of life, and what it's all about. And as we do that, in conjunction with that, we're looking at our universal or our global vision that flows out of the science of mind. And Dr. Ken Gordon delights in reminding us of what is stated in the principles, our Declaration of Principles, when it reads, that the goal of life is one thing. The goal of life is the complete emancipation from discord and all aspects of discord. And it goes on to state that it is a sure thing that it will be attained by all, that all of us can attain this. And again, in the Declaration of Principles, it says that each and every one of us can become a revealer of the truth, a revealer of the truth. And in his article on the global vision, Dr. Ken says that ours is a teaching that does no harm and serves all of life. And that's based on Ernest Holmes saying, we are against nothing. We are against no one. We are for. We are a teaching that is for life, for its affirmation, and for good. And so the teaching of Science of Mind is very much a teaching of affirmation, affirmation, affirmation. It's all about affirming life and never about negating it, but always focusing on what we can affirm and taking our minds off what we would like to negate. So keeping our minds on the good, keeping our minds on the goal, keeping our minds on the global universal vision that all of us can free ourselves from every type of discord, and in so doing, free up all of life to expand and to affirm and to coalesce into a unified expression of consciousness, because the teaching states that our lives are a projection of consciousness. That's the law of consciousness. What we think, it is so. And so the teaching is firmly based on two biblical concepts, one from the Old Testament and one from the New. In the Old Testament it is stated that as man thinks in his heart, which is consciousness, heart always equals consciousness in Old Testament times. As a man thinketh in his heart, so he is. New Testament, it is done unto you as you believe. Now this is the law of consciousness. If I'm thinking it, if I'm feeling it, if I'm agreeing with it, it's going to show up and it's going to represent itself in my life in some form or another. That's the law. And this is something that you don't have to take on somebody's word, whether it's Ernest Holmes or anybody else's. You can put it into practice, you can apply the principles and see for yourself what shows up as a result of that. And so we have to be very cognizant of what we're thinking, because we're thinking it with more than ourselves. We're thinking it with a power backing it up that is greater than we are. And that power, I call that power the omnis. It is omnipotent, all-powerful. It is omniscient, all-knowing, and it is omnipresent. Everywhere present, there is not a spot where God is not. And where God is in all of its entirety. In other words, the entirety of all that infinite intelligence is available to you and to me at any given time. So when you and I think deeply, whether it's on the negative side of life or the affirmative side of life, we have all that power backing us up and making sure that we're going to experience what we're thinking and feeling on one side or another. And so therefore, we're called to be very cognizant about the way we're thinking, the way we're feeling, and the way we're doing, because it's having a powerful effect not only on my own life, but all of life. All of life. Now that is an awesome thing for you and for me to feel responsible about. And unfortunately, most of us, most of the time, are not even thinking with regard to the power that we have when we're thinking, deciding, choosing, speaking, feeling, doing. Whatever all of that looks like is impacting all of life. So the question today is, do we want to waste our time in another new year on the negative side of life, on the practice of negating things? I am very much, it came in a meditation that this year for all of us could be dedicated to together building bridges together. Building bridges together. We want to be part of a building group and not a demolition squad. You know, you get worn out trying to, demolish things. It's very usurping of our energy. Whereas on the other hand, when you and I are endeavoring to build something up, it feels good and it feeds us and it gives us good energy. So building bridges together is a beautiful way to support our global vision to create a compassionate world that works for all. But that's not going to be plucked out of the sky having a compassionate world show up that works for everybody. The only way you and I can do that is to build it in here. You know, build it and they will come. In other words, they will come, all of us will come to a deeper state and awareness of the truth and how life is and what it truly is all about. And it's certainly not about anything other than love. And we've sang many love songs in the sanctuary over the years, and we sang some today. That if it's not about love, forget about it entirely. If it's not about love, if it doesn't come from love, if it doesn't feel like love, if it doesn't create more love, then it has nothing to do with us and it has nothing to do with our teaching, and it is not part of our philosophy. I mean, that's why there are so few of us in the world. It's a very difficult standard to meet to when we're allowing ego to be the decision maker in most of our life. But on the other hand, if we step away from that, that's why I love that song, When We Say a Tender Yes, you know, and it brings, I love the line, whereas, you know, it brings us to our knees. We want to be brought to our knees in awe and in wonder. Have you ever been out in the beauty and grace of nature and you fall into the ground? It's so awesomely gorgeous. It just takes the weight from under you, and you're just there, and you're just in this blissful state of wordlessness, because there are no words, and there's only the feeling of this huge, vast energy totally sucking you up and embracing you in its vortex, in its energy. And that's an amazing experience, and I'm sure you and I want more and more and more of those experiences. And it's there for you and I to have every day, because there's no greater wonder in the world than you. Did you know that? You are the great wonder in the world. There's no greater wonder than you in the world. Why? Because Spirit chose to express itself as you and indwelled you to do that, and is the essence of who and what you are. And that indwelling is not going to go away. And it doesn't matter how naughty we get ourselves up to, it's not going to go away, and it won't diminish one iota, not one tiny bit. It's going to be its splendid glory shining away within us all, knowing it's okay. She's going to catch up with it sooner or later. I'm fine with it. That's all right. She can have that nonsense of an experience, but, you know, eventually she'll come around, she'll wake up, she'll come to her senses, and then she will realize the wonder and the magnificence and the awe that he or she is. And that's what we're called to in looking at this global universal vision today, and thinking about it through that sense of the infinite intelligence that indwells us, that is the only thing that matters in life. Indeed, it is the only thing in life. God and only God. That's all there is. There's nothing more than God and only God. Well, get out there now into the world and prove that to yourself. And that's our challenge. That's our challenge, to prove that, to find God and only God in everything and in everyone. In every experience, as we are told, in all things, not just the good things, give thanks. Shut up the complaining, the moaning, and the groaning, and just give thanks. Give thanks for the good that is. And if you look deep enough, hard enough, wide enough, high enough, you'll find good in your life, no matter how bleak it seems to be. And that's where we're called to place our consciousness, on what is affirming, what's going to grow and expand affirmation in our lives, not negation. Now, it happens on the micro and it happens on the macro. It's going to happen on an individual level, and it's going to happen on a race consciousness level, a collective consciousness level too. And so it is stated very firmly, and Ken Gordon puts it this way. He says that when the super desire of humanity, when the super desire of humanity focuses on a good or whatever, we're saying focuses on a good, that good, because of the law of consciousness, must appear, must happen. He's re-quoting Emerson in his own way. It must happen. It doesn't matter if the answer for this has to come from the farther reaches of the universe. It will come to respond to the super desire of the consciousness of the collective It is going to happen. And he said, we've got to sustain and maintain our global vision. He said, and the way you do that, in his letter, he quotes, number one, live the vision, live it, be it, have it happen in you, through you, by your application of it. Then he says, number two, be tenacious. Tenacious in your spiritual practice and in your behavior. And number three, trust the creative process. Trust the creative process to the point that you have faith that the sun will rise every morning. He says, if you have faith in the desired good that you know and have faith in with regard to the sun rising every day, it is, of course, going to happen. Because you and I don't sit around praying that the sun will rise next morning, or worry about the fact that the sun may or may not rise tomorrow morning, or have concerns in any way about the sun rising in the morning. In fact, most of the time we don't even think about it. We just know it will. We go to bed and we say, well, thank God for that day. I'm glad it's over, or it was a great day, but please God, tomorrow morning when the sun rises, it's a whole new experience and I can create any good in it I so desire. So we're grateful for the day that's gone, for the night's sleep, and the beautiful promise of tomorrow. And that's what this science can do for you, and that's what this science can do for me. But for it to happen, you and I have to go back to the original concept that evolution is the way that life works for us as human beings on planet Earth. And evolution is the process of constant change. Form is always changing itself into something more than it was. Form always changes itself into something more than it was. Spirit is forever creating new forms and indwelling those new forms. Do we get that? Do we understand that everything Spirit creates, Spirit indwells and stays within it, remains within it? So that's why we can say the changeless, the infinite, is ever changing. It is changeless and it is ever changing. It only changes in its evolutionary state, in its state of form, and always in a progressive mode, morphing itself into more than it was before, into more than it was before, into more than it was before. Just as your life and my life has morphed itself already into more than it was before. We can look back over our lives and see great changes, can't we? And changes for the better. All the time. And that Spirit at work within each and every one of us, our life at work within each and every one of us, or the intelligence at work within each and every one of us. And Ernest Holmes states very clearly in the handbook, never, never underestimate the power of your word. He says, never stop believing that your word has the power to heal. Because your word is not your own. Your word is coupled with the power that indwells you. And when you identify with that power that indwells you and you let that word speak itself through you, it is done unto you as you have stated. For your word does not go out from you and return back unto you void. It goes out from you and it accomplishes that whereunto you sent it. And that's what you have to know about yourself. That's what you have to know about the power within you. That's what you have to know about you speaking the truth for yourself or another. That it is not you doing the work, it is the power and the presence of the infinite intelligence within you, coupled with your amen to it, that creates every possibility for that thing to be accomplished, no matter how impossible it looks. Because there's no such thing as impossibility within infinite intelligence, which is within you. Give yourself a round of applause. So this is all any one of us has to know. The presence of God is always potent at the same potent level within me, no matter how good or bad or indifferent I'm behaving myself. It's always there. And I'll finish with this. Here's an exercise. Take your hand. Blow into your hand. Did you feel that? That was the power and the presence of the infinite intelligence within you, blessing your hand. Now do this. Do you feel that energy? That's the power and the presence of infinite intelligence all around you and all about you. Now do this. You've just placed your hand on the heart of infinite intelligence, the divine being itself. And in conclusion, I will simply namaste that in you and salute your beauty and your grace, and so it is.